one's a completely different mitzvah, and this is the mitzvah of judging bodily damages. Now, I want you to pay attention carefully because this is where we part company. In the world at large, if somebody hurts somebody else or damages somebody else, there are lawsuits, right? Did I tell you ever heard the story about the guy? I got to tell you the story. It's an amazing story. This is a documented story. Guy bought a car for $50,000. Did you ever hear this story? The guy gets a brand new car for $50,000. He gets in the car and he drives to a used car dealership. Comes in and he says to the guy, look, I just bought this car for $50,000. I'll sell it to you for $20,000. This is late Friday afternoon. I'll sell you the car for $20,000. The guy says, why would you want to sell a $50,000 car for $20,000? He looks at me and says, don't ask questions. You make a quick 30 grand. Don't ask questions. He says, I don't know. Let me think about it. He walks out of the office. He calls the cops. He says, you better send somebody down here. It's a funny situation. Cop comes down. Says the guy, why do you want to sell a $50,000 car for $20,000? So he smiles at the cop and says, mind your own business. Cops don't like that. Trust me, they don't. So he says, well, I'm going to make it my business. Let me see your credit card. So he takes his credit card and he calls the company. Company's closed for the weekend. It's late Friday afternoon. Okay, so I'll lock you up. Monday morning, we'll call the company. Okay, locks him up over the weekend. Monday morning, he calls the company. Sure enough, he's got a credit line. It's his card. Everything's in order. Says the guy, you're free to go. The guy says, thank you very much. Walks out of the police station, goes straight to an attorney's office and files a lawsuit against the police department for false arrest. He planned the entire thing start to finish to do something that looks illegal. $50,000, it certainly looks questionable. Sell a $50,000 car for $20,000. He did it on a Friday afternoon knowing the company would be closed for the weekend. And he got maximum lockup time over the weekend, Saturday and Sunday, so he could plead emotional trauma and distress in court. And he got a settlement of $3.5 million. Documented story. Smart, yeah? Isn't that pretty smart? Yeah, nice. That's why. Yeah, that's why America's called the land of opportunity. Yeah. $3.5 million. Documented story. Documented story. So, what do you call it? Now, everybody's thinking, gee, what can I do? All you got to do is take some. At Hanukkah they have a sufganiyah. You ever see the sufganiyahs? Yeah. Take a sufganiyah, walk past the policeman, scrape some of the powder off, and snort it right in front of a policeman. You get yourself arrested. How that works doesn't roll up a 20. So right off your sufganiyah. Right off your sufganiyah. Now I take no responsibility for what happens to you for snorting a sufganiyah sugar. Right, but if it works, it works. We split the We split the profits. So the Meister Geld, so the guy gets a settlement. Now that's ridiculous. In halacha, it doesn't work. You see, in halacha, let's say you go and you harm somebody, and let's say it's a serious harm. Let's say you're chopping with an axe, you chop off a guy's finger. Chas v'shalom. How do you assess a finger now? I damage the guy? So first of all, there are two things. One area of division in halacha is, did you do it intentionally or did it unintentionally? If you did it intentionally, there are going to be 5 categories that you have to pay for. You have to pay for the damage to the guy, which we assess by determining how much is he worth with a finger and how much is he worth without a finger if he were sold on the open market as a slave. In other words, how much is the guy worth as a slave? How much is the guy worth as a slave who's sold without a finger? What would people pay? The difference is what you pay for that category of damage. There's pain, which is also assessed. There are different opinions on how you assess it. And one of the opinions is like this. If I'd say to you, I would like to take a hammer and I'd like to bang it on your finger hard on the table, would you let me do it for free? No. Would you let me do it for $10? No. 50? No. 100? 500? No. We're getting close, right? No. No. $10,000? No. $1 million? Yep. Okay. $1 million. Okay. So that means that somewhere between $10,000 and $1 million, you become reasonable, right? I mean, it's just a question. It's just a question of degree. For one man's $1 million and another man's $50,000. Well, one way or another, we'll find the price, right? So there are different ways. So one of the ways you assess it is how much would you pay? That's one opinion. One opinion is what do I have to pay you to let it be done? The other opinion is, how much would you pay to not have it done? Because that's going to be a lesser number. Okay, I'm going to do it to you. Would you pay me $10 not to do it? And I got you trapped. I'm going to do it to you. Would you pay me $10 not to do it? Yeah. 50? Yeah. 100? Yeah. 500? I guess so. 1,000? No way. Okay, because we're Jewish. So there's a limit. There's a limit to how much money I'm going to part with in order to avoid the pain. Everything's at its price. So however you assess it, there's the damage itself, there's the pain, there's the medical bills, there's the unemployment, and there's the embarrassment. Now, if you didn't do it intentionally, you don't pay for embarrassment. Embarrassment is, the Gemara even says that if you walk up to a guy in public and you slap him across the face, there's a different payment if you slap him across the face this way or if you give him a backhander. A backhander is more embarrassing. Remember all those war movies, but where the guys, they derank the guy, Dumkov, and they slap him across the face, which is supposed to be very, very humiliating and embarrassment. So there are ways. Now, how do you assess, somebody knocks out a guy's eye, chas v'sholom. The Torah says an eye for an eye. How do you assess an eye? How much is an eye worth? And it's a monetary payment. The answer is that there's got to be some way of assessing it, otherwise society can't exist. Accidents happen, and when accidents happen, it's a bad thing. So there's got to be some way of making an assessment. It can't be that every time somebody does something to somebody, he's got to pay millions and millions of dollars. It just doesn't work that way. So the assessment is based on, of course, there's nothing, an eye is irreplaceable, a limb is irreplaceable. But at the end of the day, there's got to be some way of compensation for society to function, number one. Number two, one of the things you avoid here is you avoid ridiculous lawsuits like that. What was that lady at McDonald's who burnt herself with the McDonald's coffee? She was holding it in her lap, like we're learning about the dress over there, in the lab, in chayka. Right? So she burnt herself with McDonald's coffee. So she sues them. I mean, of all the ridiculous things, so there are some ridiculous lawsuits which have won. There's some ridiculous lawsuits which are silly.
The only settled that because they didn't want further people to make more lawsuits on similar stuff.
Well, now, wasn't that reversed, that one? Wasn't that decision reversed eventually, or she got the payment?
She got the payment, but they wouldn't have had to actually make the payment. They could have taken it.
Oh, they could have.
They could have won.
They could have won. So why didn't they? So, and then nobody else would sue, though.
They didn't want other people to sue about other things. They just didn't want. They didn't want people to think that they could just go sue for whatever they want.
Yeah, but once you win the lawsuit, so they can't. The expenses and stuff.
They did it to keep it quiet.
Okay, so all that stuff is ridiculous. Halacha says, first of all, I'm not responsible for something silly that you do. I didn't even do it to you. You did it to yourself. Halacha does not award money for people being foolish and blame me because you're foolish. We don't have to put a label on every single thing. You got to put a label on a car. It's boiling hot. Be careful to don't put the boiling hot in your lap between your knees while you're driving your car. There's no end to that. So you got to put a label on a toothbrush. Don't stick it too far down your throat because you could choke. There's no end to that. If you take a comb, when you comb your hair, don't push down too hard. It could go right through into your teeth. There's no end to that.
But companies do that. They have money set aside.
In the United States, you're right. In the United States, I'm telling you what the halacha is. The halacha is that there's no end to that sort of thing because you could put a label on a car. And put a label on the car. Drive, if you don't drive carefully, this vehicle, why do they only put it on cigarette packages? Put it on a car. Put it on Hershey bars. Put it on everything. The answer is that halacha does not recognize that. The halacha has to have a limit. There's got to be a way for the society to function in a normal way. Now, there's another important halacha here, which many people don't know. You are responsible for your actions even if you did it unintentionally. A lot of people, you're at somebody's house and you're in a yeshiva and you kind of turn around and you break a window. Ooh, it's an accident. I know it's an accident. I don't expect you to do it. You're not a malicious sinner. Of course it was an accident. If you do it on purpose, you're malicious. But you're responsible for what you've done. It's a shogeg. I understand. But your man is responsible for his actions. The same thing if you break somebody's glasses unintentionally. Or I'll get the question in a second. You break somebody's glasses unintentionally. Now, the real question becomes, let's say you're playing a basketball game and you break somebody's glasses. There, it's a little bit different because there is a known risk factor. You're playing the game knowing that I might turn around and break your glasses. So you have already put it, because otherwise I'm not going to play if I know that I got to play for you guys. Take off your glasses. I'm not playing with you if you're going to be wearing the glasses and I got to pay for them if they break. So it's one thing if you're wearing your glasses, I happen to turn around recklessly in the middle of a hallway and break your glasses. I got to pay for it. Well, who should pay for it? It was an accident. I know it was an accident. Of course you didn't do it on purpose. The Torah says you are responsible for what you do, even unintentionally. Somebody had a question back there.
Isn't it about negligence too? You just said it.
That what?
Like negligence,
Yeah, an accident, negligence, that sort of thing. If you're there are different degrees, even in the secular world. They recognize there's what's called an accident, and a guy's driving, and as he's driving, his steering wheel breaks off, so he runs up on your yard and damages your thing. Okay, it's not my fault. I feel bad for it. I know you didn't do it intentionally. There's another guy who's doing 90 miles an hour in a 30-mile-an-hour zone, loses control of the car. That's also an accident. That wasn't intentional. But that's a higher degree of what do you call recklessness. But for all those things, you're obligated. About the only time you're not obligated, according to some, if it was absolute circumstances beyond your control. Now, circumstances beyond your control does not mean the steering wheel broke off in your hand, because that was in your control. It's your car. You should have made sure the steering wheel is working well. Circumstances beyond your control means you're driving and a tornado hits and blows your car into my bench. There's nothing you could have possibly done about that other than stay off the street, which you don't have to do. So there are opinions that you're not responsible because of the circumstances beyond your control. But for the most part, anything you do unintentionally, you are responsible for. Now, one example, the Gemara says if you're sleeping and I put something next to you once you're already asleep, I put my glasses on the bed while you're sleeping and you roll over and crunch them, then you don't have to pay me. That's my fault. You should have put the glasses there. On the other hand, if you went to sleep seeing my glasses there, and then you rolled over, that the Torah says you're responsible for. Now, there's another concept. See, in halacha this works, ones rachmana patre. If it was unintentional, let's say you slept past shachris. You went to sleep past shachris. Okay, it's not your fault. You were sleeping. It's an onus. It would circumvent beyond your control. Now, that also depends. Did you go to sleep at 10 o'clock at night? And your alarm clock didn't go off, or you just came staggering in at 5 in the morning after a night on the town, and then you slept past Shachris. Okay, so it's an onus, but there are different types of onuses. An onus means, again, circumstances beyond your control. They tell us, I'll get to you once, they tell a story about a Jew. The Jew's walking on the street, and the non-Jew sees him. And he says to him, I have a piece of pork I'd like you to eat. He says, I'm not going to eat pork. I don't eat pork. He says, come on, eat the pork. He says, I'm Jewish. I don't eat pork. It's not kosher. He says, what? Did you never had pork? Aren't you interested in tasting pork? He says, tell you the truth. I am, but I'm not going to do it because it's forbidden. So the guy pulls out a gun. He says, Jew, eat the pork. So he looks at him and says, well, could you just done that originally, instead of going through all of this, that's also an onus, You're not too unhappy about that onus. There's an onus and there's an onus. So if a guy is really beyond a circumstance, it's an accident. Accidents happen in life. Accidents happen. Usually it happens with kids. Accidents happen. They're no fun when they happen, but they have to know what to do when the accident happens. Okay, somebody else had a question. Yaakov, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a question. Like sometimes the accidents are orchestrated.
By who?
For example, like if there's security agencies that need to orchestrate things like that, and but there was a case where they got this guy drunk on purpose, and then put him into a scenario where he had to drink. I need to drive. Now, if he would have.
Don't know. That's complicated. Don't know.
Huh?
It's complicated. I don't know. But a guy, if you are drunk, you're responsible for your actions.
But like they put him in a scenario where he's forced to drive. I forgot what they did.
I don't know. That I don't know. But just in general, if you're drunk and you damage somebody, you are responsible. So what you do when you're drunk, you're still responsible for. When you're drunk, you see, all society holds you responsible. Drunk driving, you can't say, well, I was drunk, I didn't know what I was doing. You shouldn't have gotten into the car when you were drunk. You're expected to know that. Okay, gentlemen, we'll see you tomorrow.